Hello and welcome back to episode number 45 of the Precision Personal Training Podcast. Today I'm going to be doing something a little bit different. So instead of just going in on one topic and spending the whole time on that, I'm going to take 6 valuable insights from the last 6 Precision PT podcast episodes. Because when you step back and look at the themes that kept coming up again and again, whether that was burnout, sleep, pain, nutrition, consistency, weekends off plan, sustainability, photo shoots, business, values. There's a lot of core ideas underneath all of them. And I think that it's important because a lot of people are still looking for progress in the wrong places. They're looking for the perfect plan, the magic calorie target, the perfect training split. They're looking for a shortcut. But when you listen enough to conversations around health, fitness, performance, mindset, and coaching, you realize that real progress comes back to the same things. Can you recover properly? Can you manage stress? Can you stay consistent when life gets messy? Can you make good decisions that align with who you want to become? Can you avoid turning one bad day into one bad week? And can you build something that still works when motivation drops? That's what today is about. So I'm going to go through, I have 6, I have a few bonus ones there if we have time, but I do have to get back PTing people today as well. But I'm going to go through them and how you can apply them to everyday life from summarising the podcast. Also, Fia of Nova Digital, he's taken the reins over the podcast editing and the sharing of it, and I'm forever grateful to him and his team for that. And Fia has also created blog posts on precisionpt.ie. So if you go on our website, you'll be able to see a full blog breakdown of the recent insights that I'm going to be talking about from the last few podcast episodes. So let's get into it. Insight number 1, burnout rarely arrives all at once. The first big lesson is this: burnout usually doesn't hit you like a truck. It creeps up quietly. And I think this is something that a lot of people miss. Most people imagine burnout as this dramatic crash where one day you're flying and the next day you completely fall apart. But in reality, for most people, it shows up a lot more subtly than that. So as a few examples, you start skipping workouts, you stop going for walks, the small things that you normally did on a day-to-day that made you feel good, you don't do them anymore. You're irritable, you're drained, you don't feel present, and you can't actually switch off. And one physical attribute for me that you can even consider for yourself is my eyes get scratchy. That's when I know stress is high, fatigue is high, I can't sleep, my eyes get scratchy, and I'm a lot more irritable. So these are things that we have to look out for during our training process and our journey. Because if it doesn't look dramatic at first, people don't really consider it. That is the issue there. You just tell yourself that you're busy, that you just need to get through the week and you'll be back on track on Monday. But then 1 week becomes a month, and 1 month becomes a season of your life where you're surviving rather than functioning. And this is the issue. A lot of people think that they're discipline problems, but they're actually just capacity problems. Because if you're mentally fried, emotionally overloaded, underslept, and constantly switched on, then of course your training slips. Of course your food is going to get worse. Of course your patience is going to run out, cravings will go up, and you'll be at your wit's end. That doesn't actually mean you're weak. I would say that means you're overloaded or just overworked. And just as a bonus insight from one of the podcasts with Tristan Jacobs, TJ mentioned that he doesn't believe you can overtrain. He believes you under recover, and I completely agree with that. Because often where burnout starts to reveal itself is in the small things that you were doing that made you feel good, and now because you're getting burnt out, fatigue is high, you've stopped doing all the things that led you to reducing burnout. So this is where you have to be able to manage your load and manage your capacity. And I say this to a lot of my clients all the time. You need to have things that make you tick as a person yourself. So it's not selfish it could be looked as that. I don't think so, because I think you're looking after yourself so you could be a better version to everybody else. So a lot of people think and feel guilty when they try to do something for themselves. A lot of women that I train who are just after giving birth, and let's say now the child is in a state where they have their routine down and they're trying to get some time back to themselves, and because they've carried a child for 9 months, went through pregnancy, and that could be traumatic. They feel like they don't deserve, or feel a bit guilty for trying to do something for themselves, because, oh, I have to be here for someone else, or I have to be here for the child. But you doing that makes you a better mother and a better person for the people around you. So you should never, when you know you're at your limit, you should never feel like you're being selfish, or never feel guilty for trying to get some of your energy back. So what the take home from that insight is: pay attention to the quiet signs. Don't wait until you crash to admit something needs to change. And I feel like Irish people were definitely guilty of that. We wait for something big to happen and then we'll make a change. It's always, when I see it with a lot of my older clientele, they come in after a health scare. They could have gone and got their bloods done, and the doctor's like, look, you're on the verge of a heart attack, or signs are on that we could be developing a stroke. So these are things that we need to knuckle down quickly and manage straight away. So moving on to insight number 2. Being tired is not the same as being able to switch off. The second lesson here links directly with the first one. Just because you're exhausted doesn't mean your body feels safe enough to rest. This is massive. So many people say, I'm wrecked all day, but when I get into bed, I cannot sleep. Or I'm so tired, but I can't switch my brain off when I lie in bed. Or I'm sleeping, but I'm not recovering. And that's because physical tiredness and your nervous system downregulation are not the same thing. You could be physically shattered and still mentally wired. You could be drained and still hyper alert. You can want rest and still not be able to access it properly. And a lot of people live in that state right now. This is from my most recent podcast with Tom Price, hypnotherapist. He's a great guy, and he's absolutely skilled at the craft he's developed. He spent 20 years in corporate IT, dealing in a high stressed state, and he could not switch that off, and he went and sorted that himself, and now he's doing that for his clientele as well. He's an amazing guy, and I would recommend checking out his page as well, because a lot of people are still in that state. Always reachable, always stimulated, always checking their phones from work, always consuming, always scrolling, always reacting. So you're constantly on your phone or laptop for work. Then when you go home, you're sitting there doom scrolling on your phone. So you're constantly wired. Your brain is constantly getting dopamine hits, getting stressed, and it's constantly on and in that stressed, reactive state. Even when you actually stop working, you're not actually switching off. So a lot of people would blame work, but when you get home, you're still completely wired. And if your system spends most of the day feeling under pressure, then sleep doesn't automatically fix that. That's why better recovery is not just about sleeping more hours. It's creating more moments of safety and stillness throughout the day. Because Tom mentioned this. This goes back to our primitive state. When, let's say, you have to sleep. This is just something we've inherited. When you have to sleep and there's potential of fighting off wild animals or other tribes or clans, whatever it was back many years ago, you're still in that state of fight or flight, and you can't actually switch off because you're putting yourself in that mindset. So it's how we get out of that, and it's creating a safe, still environment. And this is where he talks about his hypnotherapy sessions. They take you through that journey. So whatever's on your mind, whatever your mind is racing about, whatever you're worrying about, hypnotherapy allows you to get into a safe, calm state, and then you're able to solve and work through a lot of the issues at hand. But some more practical insights that you can take from this, it might mean getting outside in daylight. If you work in an office and there's no natural sun coming in, your mood is going to be completely affected. Reducing stimulation before bed. Take the phone out of the room. Buy an alarm clock on Amazon. Set the alarm up, and don't be on your phone pre-bed. It might mean not bringing your laptop home from work. Keep it away, or at least have an office in the house where you can lock the door and you're mentally saying, I'm clocking out. Because one thing as well, that you have to remember, a lot of people listen to this are, let's say, employees or high achievers in a company. It's never truly your work or your business. So I have empathy for people who are self-employed, because let's say for myself, you do have to work a lot, you have to be in the trenches, and I don't doubt you do that for another company as well. But one thing that I took from my father, he retired at 54, I think. He's like, you're always just a number, you're going to be replaced. So you have to remember that too. A lot of people take work extremely personally, and it's great because it shows you actually care and give a damn, but it shouldn't consume you to the point where you're not recovering or getting any sleep as well, and it's eating into your personal life. Go for a walk without headphones. My mate, Killian Cawley, he had this up on Instagram the last day. He said, like, he just started walking without a phone, watch, headphones, and just the peace and tranquility and the groundingness he found from doing that is phenomenal. Train for enjoyment, not punishment. You need to go into the gym saying, this is a privilege, I'm privileged to move. It doesn't have to be deemed torture. Like a lot of our clients, we slag, oh, you're killing me, you're torturing me. But I'm like, we're actually doing you a favour, we're keeping you healthier. And then you need a cut-off point as well. So what I mean by this is 8 o'clock at night, work is done, phone is done, you're switching off, end of story. You need to be married to that and have that. I know it sounds obvious, but a lot of people don't do it. They finish work, they go straight on their phone on TikTok. Their phone then, they turn on Netflix. Usually you're not even watching what's on Netflix. You're actually using it as background noise and you're still scrolling on your phone. Then from Netflix, you're going into bed, you're still on your phone, and you might have Netflix now still on while you're in bed. And they wonder why their brain is still on, or they're wired and they can't get to sleep. Your mind needs friction between input and rest. If all day you're consuming information, solving problems, and reacting to stimulation, you can't expect your brain to slam on the brakes the second your head hits the pillows. No. These are all behavioural issues that we need to nip in the bud and get sorted before you hit the pillow. So a practical takeaway from this insight is build a shutdown routine. It doesn't have to be anything fancy. A lot of people are invested in Brick and these apps, which are great, but you could just start very basic. Finish work at a defined time. So if you leave the office at 5 o'clock, you're gone. That is it. Done. If you need to bring work home with you, you do it in a designated area. And I mean, you stay in your work clothes, you go to the office in the house, you stay there until you get your work done. Don't spend all evening on it. Come out, lock that door, switch off whatever, change clothes into lounging, whatever around the house, and then you're chilling. Go for a walk if you have to. Have your dinner without your phone. Dim the lights. No emails at all. Potentially read, journal, sleep in a cooler, darker room. So these things are very simple and practical, but a lot of people don't do them and then wonder why they're absolutely wired going to bed and sitting there twiddling their thumbs. Insight number 3. The things you enjoy are not optional extras. The third one is one I really like, because positive habits are not luxuries, they are part of your resilience. And I think a lot of people get this backwards. They treat the things that make them feel good as bonuses to life. They could do after all the important stuff is handled. So hobbies become optional, walking becomes optional, training becomes optional, meeting a friend or coffee, doing something fun, sauna, going out for dinner, all these things are deemed as just bonuses to getting your normal stuff done, which is good. But the problem is those things are often the exact things that help you stay mentally well enough to carry out the important things that you have to do in a day-to-day. So they're not really extras, they're just supports. So for me, I know myself, every Sunday I have to get some form of sauna and cold exposure done. The skin is one of the biggest organs in the body. Sweating is a process of detoxification, and I really enjoy it. I feel great after it mentally, and I know it helps me from a recovery standpoint, because I know I'm thrashing my body in the gym. I'm asking a lot of it Monday to Saturday, and then Sunday is when I can switch off and chill out. Again, there's supports. That matters in coaching too, because if your life becomes work, pressure, family, logistics, admin, deadlines, responsibility, with no real outlet, no enjoyment, or no recovery even built into it, eventually everything just starts to feel way heavier. You become less emotionally robust, you become less patient, you have less headspace, and your habits fall apart more easily, and then you're just not the same individual you were, and you lose that kind of lust for life that you don't want to be losing. People often think resilience means pushing harder. Sometimes resilience actually means protecting the habits that keep you balanced and can keep you being resilient. What does that actually look like? Training 2 to 3 times per week, walking if you can every day, getting out into some sunlight, doing maybe 5 to 10 minutes of breath work or some form of meditating, playing golf. It gets you outside, you're seeing your mates. Having a hobby that has absolutely nothing to do with productivity is the key. Having 1 hour in that week that is genuinely yours. And again, that is not selfish, it is maintenance, is what I like to say. And I think the message is especially important for high achievers, parents, business owners, and people with very full-on lives. Because the more responsibility you have, the easier it is to justify the things that keep you well. But long term, that's nearly a mistake. So if you feel like you're running on empty, don't just ask, what do I need more of? Ask, what have I removed from my life that actually kept me grounded and a better person during the phases of my life when stress is high. Insight number 4. Pain is information and it's not always damage. So again, thank you to Tristan Jacobs for coming on the podcast, episode number 43. Pain is information, it's not always damage. And this is such an important conversation because pain still scares people far more than what it needs to. Now, obviously, use some common sense. There are times when pain matters, there are times when you need assessment, and there are times when you shouldn't just ignore what your body is telling you. But the problem is that too many people jump straight from discomfort to panic. But the problem is, let's say they feel pain in a squat and think, I've done something serious. They feel shoulder pain pressing and think the movement is now bad for me forever. They tweak their back and think, I can't train now. And what often happens is someone becomes more afraid of movement than the issue itself. The fear changes how they move, it changes how they train, it changes how they trust their body. And ironically, that can prolong the whole thing because pain is complex. It's influenced by tissue, yes, but also stress, sleep, recovery, previous injury, fear, training history, context, load management, and how threatened your body actually feels. So not every bit of pain means damage. Not every niggle means stop. Not every flare-up means regression. Sometimes it means that load was too much at that point. The progression was way too aggressive and we need to assess. Your tolerance is down. You could be a bit more stressed. You might have got a poor night's sleep. Happens to all of us. There's good days and bad days. You just need to adjust the range of motion potentially. That immediately gives you options. So instead of what's broken, you start asking, what is this telling me? Because if pain is information, you can work with it. If pain equals disaster, you usually either freeze or overreact. So think of pain as information and then get on to people like TJ, Kevin Lynch, all these guys we recommend, Daryl Coyne, Dara Bolton, all these guys, Cora Joyce too. All these guys are people we've referred clients to just because they're the specialists in it. Personal trainers often think that they need to fix pain. No, it's not your job. That I learned that pretty quickly. Just seek out the help of professionals. It's like someone who comes to you with some sort of nutritional deficiency or tolerance. I'll just reach out to a nutritionist. Like we had Aoife Gillan in the gym presenting one day. So a personal trainer, your goal is get people in the gym, get them lifting correctly, teach them how to build muscle, lose fat, live a healthier life, and go from there. Build a team and a network around you of people that you can lean into and use for help with your clientele. The answer is not always stop training, it's just train a bit smarter. Insight number 5. Rehab should feel like training, not punishment. So rehab works far more better when it feels like it's part of training, not a separate punishment phase. I love this idea because a lot of people mentally detach from rehab. They see it as boring stuff that they have to get through before they can get back to real training. Because if rehab feels tedious, irrelevant, or frustrating, and disconnected from your goals, you won't feel like doing it. But if rehab is framed as training with purpose, then that changes. A slower tempo in a squat is still training. A reduced range press is still training. Isometrics are still training. Single leg work is still training. We program them for our clients all the time in our own training. Modified loading is still training. You're not doing nothing. You're just developing a capacity. And I think people need to hear that more often. It's finding what you can do, working around aggravated positions, keeping confidence high, and keeping some momentum. So a lot of my clients, they come in with niggles, pains, issues, and we work around them. We seek out help from professionals and just go from there. When someone gets injured, they often don't just lose movement, they lose routine, structure, confidence, and a big piece of them that made them feel good. So if rehab keeps them in the game mentally and physically, that's massive to get them back to where they were. A good question to ask when pain shows up is, what can I still do well? And it's not in a delusional way where you're thinking, I'm being ignorant here. It's genuinely a question of what can I actually do well, perform at, and do a little bit more of over time to get me back to where I once was. Questions that you ask yourself that I've gathered from TJ is, can I change the exercise? Can I change the range? Can I change the load? Can I change the volume? Can I train around it? And can I build back to where I was gradually? And the answer to all those questions are, yes, you can. So, because people do much better when they feel capable, when they feel they're broken. And the fitness industry likes to shame you into thinking you are broken, and then they come in and say, buy this. So this is your issue. They shame you into it, and then it's buy my program, buy this. No, don't fall for that. Insight number 6. Off-plan weekend is rarely the real problem. One weekend off your plan usually doesn't do that much damage. The overreaction does. So you have a weekend away, a wedding, family event, night out, bank holiday, dinner, whatever, a few drinks. Monday evening, you feel bloated, you feel sluggish, the scale is up, and you don't train for 2 or 3 days. You feel like you've undone everything. So what you do is, instead of returning to your normal day-to-day plan, you shame yourself and you beat yourself up for what you did. Instead of just admitting it for what it was you enjoying yourself. It was a well-earned time off and away, and all you're doing is just a little bit of a treat to yourself for the hard work you've done, or you're just living life, because that's what normal people do. They live life, and that's what we try to get our clients to live their life as normal while still doing their day-to-day things, but just enhancing their life and their fitness, and improving confidence, improving their physique. That's what we try to do. It's no big deal. But what you do is you slash your calories, you try to be extra good, you skip meals, you hammer yourself with cardio, you tell yourself the week is ruined anyways, and then by Thursday you're throwing in the towel saying, this is it, I'm done. It's never the event itself, it's always the response. Because most off-plan weekends are not body composition disasters, they are consistency tests. Can you get back to normal quickly? Can you can you keep one indulgent meal as one instead of it turning into a 5-day spiral and binge? That's the real skill. And the more mature your approach becomes, the more you realize that fitness progress is not built by avoiding all social events. So, like for me, Friday night takeaway night's a massive night in our house. I'm in a fat loss phase. I want to lose body fat. What do I have to do? I have to manage my energy balance and control my caloric intake. So what can I do for that? I can pick a takeaway that gives me the calories of the food. It might be exactly correct, but it's a damn near good guess and close. Supermax is right beside us. So it's never about the food itself, it's about the event, right? It's me and my family sitting around chilling together. It's the end of the week. We don't want to cook. We don't want to clean. A lot of us talk about our day and what happened. And it's one meal where we're all eating together. We're all up early, but like my day, I could be home middle of the day and I'm gone for the whole evening then. So I barely even see my sister who works a normal 9 to 5. So that Friday evening meal is catching up with her, catching up with mum and dad, and then our dog or Bernice is sitting there frothing at the mouth. But these things are important to me because it enhances my fitness journey. I'm able to keep everything coming together nicely instead of just being a dogmatic approach and then losing out in these moments because we're not all going to be around together. Life gets in the way. People could move away, move out, pass away. All these things that just life is going to throw at us. If I'm focused on missing out and all that, I need to stick to the plan. Again, you're going to look in the mirror and you will not recognize the reflection looking back at you someday. Time will move on. We will have aged. But the beauty with natural bodybuilding, if you stay consistent over time and training, you're always going to look good. You're always going to keep working towards a better goal and outcome. So again, it isn't that deep. Of course, unless you're a competitive bodybuilder, but that is not my market. That is not who I'm talking to. I absolutely respect bodybuilding. I love it. I love watching it. I love following bodybuilders who are training hard, train their ass off. But that's not who I'm talking to right now. I'm talking to a local person to Tuam, Galway, Ireland, wherever you are, and you're just trying to get in shape, live a healthier life, be confident in your physique, and be mentally solid. One weekend isn't going to ruin your whole progress, let me tell you. It's how you manage it. But just something like that you could consider. Can you go to Supermax? Can you get a grilled chicken breast sandwich, 3 tenders, track the chips? Done. It's in your calories. You've managed it. Your weight might be up a bit higher the next day because the sodium levels and the water retention, or eating a bit later and you mightn't have taken a shit or a pee. That's okay. But you're still on track to the person you're aligning your goals and your actions with and who you want to become. Because if your plan only works when life is clean, quiet, predictable, it doesn't work. The better plan is one that survives weddings, family takeaway nights, birthdays, trips, stress, and just imperfect weeks. The last insight I'm going to talk about is just a bit of a bonus one. Long-term success comes from resetting fast and not being perfect. This might be the biggest lesson of the whole lot. The people who succeed long-term are not the most perfect. They are the quickest to reset. This touched on my last point. It's such a powerful idea because perfection is still the trap so many people fall into. They think success means never missing a workout, never overeating, never drinking, never having a bad week, never losing motivation, never going off plan. But that isn't real life, let me tell you. There'll be gurus online preaching, oh, lock in, winter arc, all this shit. That isn't real life. Everyone has bad days. Everyone misses sessions. Everyone has weekends where things do not go their way. Everyone has sessions that are a bit less focused because there could be something else going on. The difference is how you respond. That's what I'm always harping on to clients about. It's never the event, it's never what happened, it's just how do you respond? Are you coming back to the person you want to become? Do you reset on the next meal or do you wait till Monday? Do you get back in the gym after 3 days or 3 weeks? Because that's where people get stuck. They don't just have a setback, they turn that setback into an identity statement, and then that is what keeps them from getting to where they want to be because they attach their identity to failure and now they're a big failure, and that is the slippery slope. You don't just have a setback, you need to start talking to yourself like this. I've no discipline, I always do this, I've fallen off, I've ruined it now. If you speak to yourself like that, the behaviour starts to follow. This is how you need to do it. It was a mistake or a bit of a slip up, but I'm going to get back to it. That's the key there. It's shortening the gap between mistake and response, wobble recovery, off plan, on plan. This applies to nutrition, training, sleep, business, mindset. If your reset time is short, your progress can still be excellent even if life is messy. So maybe a better goal for people is not how do I stay perfect, it's maybe the better goal is how do I become someone who gets back on track quickly? That is the key. It's far more useful, far more realistic, and guess what? It's far more sustainable. So that is bringing us all together from just some of the lessons of the last few podcast episodes. Burnout usually creeps in quickly. Being tired is not the same as being able to switch off. The things you enjoy are not optional extras, they keep you well. Pain is information, not always damage. Rehab should feel like training with the purpose. One off plan weekend is rarely the main issue. The overreaction is, and long term success comes from being able to reset quickly, not being perfect. Sustainable fitness will always beat short term impressive fitness. So, guys, thank you for listening to today's episode. Again, if you have any issues at all with fat loss, muscle building, please feel free to reach out and I will catch you in the next episode.